Oh my goodness. Thank you, Josephine. I've just noticed that I was on mute. Really, no one could stop me and tell me, hey, Ayub, you're talking to yourself. Oh my goodness. Wow. All right. You guys will forgive me. But thank God I was on video, so you could see my mouth just moving around and you guys are not listening. Robin, yani ulikuwa umenyamaza tu na unaona tu mdomo tu ndio inazunguka lakini useme kitu.
Nili notice I was writing a chat ndio ukatokelezea na sauti.
Hata Timothy ali notice. Oh, okay. Thanks, Timo. Thanks, Josephine. So, wow. So I need to rewind. Okay. I'll rewind. Nimefungua roho sana, lakini nilikuwa nafungua roho to myself, but it's okay. These things happen. So I was saying the last meeting. Okay, this audio is recorded. Of course, once you get it, for those guys who just joined or could not hear me, I would encourage you to play the first part, to listen to my ranting or even the things I was saying before I unmuted myself. Okay. So last Saturday, what we did is we collected the data. Let me just unmute a couple of guys. Okay. All right. So we collected data. We had a class of foundations for machine learning, and it was very engaging. The video is recorded, and I'll share the link. I know there are some people who've just joined us because I informed guys in a different group about what we do in our group, and quite a number of guys have joined us. So all the materials that we had previously, I'm going to share immediately after this class. So don't worry, including the first foundation in machine learning class. So if we go back straight to the data, I was saying we collected data, and this data was for the game that we were playing. What we did is I explained machine learning using a game for that. If you want to get the story, you play the previous video, the first one. So this one, guys collected quite a number of records. I think it was 118. So 118 in the columns, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Let me share my screen so that I walk you through together. All right. Share screen. This one. Share. I hope you guys can see my screen. Timo, can you confirm that you can see my screen? Or Robin? Or anyone? Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, you can.
Okay, perfect. So you guys, with this kind of data, this is actually a real data, as in on the ground. Very rarely will you come across such messy and dirty data. In fact, this one is slightly clean. What I mean by dirty data is there are times where you'll get data that has null values, different formats, wrong titles. So you have to do a lot of data cleaning. And this part is normally what makes the life of a machine learning engineer or even a data scientist a nightmare. So last week, the game is someone picks the dart, throws it, and we take measurements of a few things. We take measurements of the height of this individual. The pressure in this case was the force. I don't know, we will just make an assumption that the force is measured in specific units. We don't know if it's, those guys who did physics, I did physics like in campus, we do things to complete. We don't do it to gain some insights. Okay, majority of people do it to get some insights. Unfortunately, many in the campus, and some of those things in Peter too. This is the time I'm recollecting. So you can enlighten me on that. So for this class, let's assume pressure is, we are measuring pressure in a certain unit, whatever unit it is, if it is force or whatever. So we collected that. The timings, I'm not quite sure, because people came up with their own thoughts of the things that they feel would be important when playing that game. So the timings, I think, was maybe the duration. Whoever added that column would explain better. But I would assume that the timing is how long it took this person either to shoot or to get to the bullseye or to the board. We also took the size. So one person felt like there is need to take the size of the individual. And then we also took the distance the individual is standing away from the dartboard. And then the I power is the strength. So if it is P, it is poor. If it is G, it is good. If it is S, it is standard. And then, yeah. So these people were good enough to give me the keys. Yeah, so G is good, standard is S, blood is B, poor is P. Yeah. So that, and then the points within which you can pick it up. Yeah. You have points, hit or miss. The hit or miss becomes now the target variable. Yeah. The target variable we spoke about last Saturday, sorry. We also spoke about the independent variables. So this one, if you followed through the last class, this becomes the target variable. And then these other ones becomes the independent variable. So this is a set of the variables are the number, height, pressure, timings, size, distance, I power, and points. So independent variables, like we discussed previously, these are variables that actually help in determining whether determining or influencing the outcome. And in this case, the outcome is hit or miss. So the distance between which someone stands, we think, could probably affect the outcome. If you're nearer, you'll probably just, if you're so near, you can just pin it in the bullseye. You don't need to throw. You just take the arrow, you pin it. But as you move further away from the arm's length, you cannot pin it. You have to throw. So if you're right near, the chances of you hitting the bullseye is higher as compared to when you're far. And then someone else, we thought that someone like me with spectacles, I'll probably not be a good shooter. So I'll probably miss because of my eyesight. But those guys with good eyesight, they're probably most likely to hit the bullseye. Same to pressure and height. So if you put a lot of thrust on while you're throwing the darts, it will actually reach the board and get enough force to get stuck. For those guys who don't use a lot of pressure, then it will go to the board or probably just fall down. So that in that case, you don't get any marks. That was the game. And I asked you guys to share the data, and you guys shared the data. And the way the data was collected by different people, this is exactly as it is, as raw as this is. Now the question is, how do we start the journey to start predicting hit or miss? How do you use this data to start the journey of hit or miss? So in the process, you'll see we have a couple of things. We have someone here who recorded feet. Another person recorded meters. Another person recorded feet with the apostrophe. So how do you now move forward? The pressure, we have other people did not provide anything. Yeah, they did not provide any information. So it is null, same to timings, same to size, and we have some distances that were not provided. So I don't know if maybe the person just went and shot faster, did not take distance, but this happens in the real world, yeah? Especially when you come from a statistical path, like now, you formulate a research question, you create your survey forms, you go out and take surveys. The outcome, the feedback you get from those surveys, if you're to subject them to a machine learning algorithm, you'll find that you have a lot of null values and probably quite a lot of data that does not make sense. Last week also we spoke about outliers. You might find that someone says, for instance, 100 meters or some ridiculous number. It could be even 1,000 meters. So what do you do with that data? So the data has come back, but you need to work with that data to drive to your conclusion. So if it is a machine learning problem, that is a very big concern. If it is a statistical problem where you're proving an hypothesis, it is still a big issue that needs to be factored in your determination of your conclusion. So this is the data we're going to use, and I'm hoping that you guys have opened your notebooks. Anyone who has not opened the notebook, I think I'm going to pause here before I continue. If someone has a question with regards to dataset or even with regards to the previous class, you can actually you can just speak up. I hope I was not mute this time. Okay, good. I was not mute. So you can proceed to Jupyter Notebooks. I'm assuming you guys have it open and you have the dataset. I sent the dataset on the WhatsApp group. Josephine, are we together?
Yes.
I'm trying to go to catch up.
Oh, okay. That's Henry. Who just said he's trying to catch up?
Go on, Joseph.
Oh, Joseph. Oh, okay, okay. So I'll assume you guys have the notebook. Joseph, if you get stuck, feel free. Let me know where you're stuck. We can help you. Maybe what you might not be able to help you at in this session is maybe if you have computer issues or even Jupyter Notebook issues. But I hope and pray that you've installed Jupyter and you've at least played around with it, so that
Yes,
you
yes.
have this session to be easy. Okay.
Oh,
all right.
okay.
So let me go to the notebook. I opened quite a lot of windows. Okay. Let me just open the notebook in a minute. I'll stop sharing for a few minutes. I get the notebook and then I get right back. I'm hoping you guys can see the notebook that I've opened. I would want us to go through this. If we could go through this, as I type, you type. So when you get stuck, you let me know. Yeah. So the first thing you need to do is to make sure that you have your notebook and your data set in a place you can access it. So from this is my notebook and this is the data set that you're going to use. It's the data set that I explained to you guys. And all this stuff is going to be made available on my GitHub. You can always fork them, download and practice. So, but typing is also good, and that's why this session is going to be for typing. So as you type, so the first thing you're going to do is to import Pandas. Now, this imports, I'm assuming everyone knows how to get to this point. So if you don't know, please don't keep quiet. Fungua roho, these 2 hours not to be a waste. Okay. So this import Pandas as PD, this is standard practice. This as is just creating an instance of the library. It could be anything. It could be import Pandas as Ayub, import Pandas, but it would bring confusion and complication in your life. When you want to use it, you won't know which instance to use. So we'll just continue as standard practice. So if you want to run this cell, you just press Alt, Enter. That would import the Pandas library. So we are going to use Pandas library for most of today's session, and in next session, additional library will come through, especially when it comes, we start now visualizing and doing exploratory data analysis. So for today, I think it's just going to be a lot of data cleaning techniques. All right. So data df is the data frame that we're going to create, and we're going to use the Pandas read CSV data sets. Remember, I mentioned that this is where we are storing it. So this is our notebook, and this is the path. So it's in a folder called dataset. So when you open that folder, here is our file. So when you come back to our root directory, which is this is the file, yeah, dataset, and then we specify the file name. That's underscore master.csv. And then if I normally like adding this parameter because it normally, if your CSV file has specifically, it has dates or some other column, the engine is what you're going to use. So when you specify, it actually saves you quite a lot of let me just mute my notification. These things are distracting me. Okay. It saves you a couple of errors that you might find, yeah, depending on the file that you're importing. That's our data frame. So all the data in our Excel sheet, we now put them, they're now here. So if you want to manipulate it using Pandas, this is what you're going to make reference to. So if you want to view it, data_df.head. So this head, Pandas has something called, okay, it has several functions. So one of them is DataFrame has, what do I call them? It has, when you import a data frame, that data frame object, there are so many things you can do to it. Like now, it helps you explore and manipulate your data. One of those is head. So what this head does, it picks the top 5 records now by default. So if you want to view 10 records, you just put that 10 and it will give you additional 10. It just helps you explore. Yeah. So we'll just leave it at default. Others are tail and sample. So if you change this to sample, and then you specify a number, sample 5, it doesn't give you in any particular order, but it does what? It randomizes and pulls 5, yeah? So we work with head. As you learn, you don't have to know everything right now, because as you solve problems, you'll come across a lot of techniques that you'll get used to. So don't worry. For now, or for today's session, just know head, tail, sample, and then in your own free time, you can read about others. Okay, Alt, Enter. And then let's just spend some time here. We have the column names. We can see we have null values. We have the size in inch. We have height in feet, and then meters, and then also feet, and others do not have anything. So how do we start? This is completely a big mess, yeah? But the first thing I would propose we do is to rename our titles. Because with this one, for example, if you wanted to view observations by a specific observer, you have observer 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Observers are those people who sent the Excel sheet. So those people who did not send, for our Excel sheet to be bigger, I would recommend that you send it through so that we have a lot of data within which we can do prediction, we can do exploratory data analysis. Just think of anything and we add it and we process it, yeah? Okay, so the first thing we'll do is to probably rename the columns, yeah? But we also want to observe, we want to check out the data types, because data types, they have a way of, they will actually dictate what you're able to do or what you're not able to do. For instance, if our data frame had date columns, and that date column is stored in as a string, you won't be able to do a trend graph, or you won't be able to do any other thing. For example, if the field has a data type of string, and you want to do integer manipulation, like say multiplication, you won't be able to do those. So we need to also have an understanding on the data types. So if you do info, it gives you a view of the data types. For example, observer is stored as integer. The number is also stored as integer. The height is object. Object is like a string. And then float, pressure is stored as float. Timing is also stored as float. Size, yeah, okay. So once it's good to actually check the null values. That is also important. The null values, so we have 119 null values, meaning observer has all the records. Yeah, but when it comes to height, you see height has one value that is null. Pressure has only 19 null values. Yeah, so distance has 100 null values. High power 80. So what exactly do you do with the null value? So this gives you information that you actually have null values and you need to do something about it. Now, we now know a scope of what we need to do. Address null values, format the strings, quite a lot of stuff, those concerns that I've noticed. But the first thing we're going to do is to rename our columns. If I'm too fast, please just stop me. At times I get a bit excited about these things. Now, the way we are going to rename, let me just push this to the top. Okay, no need. We have observer. The first thing we need to do when you're renaming, we create a dictionary and make sure we have that one is the first one, and we want to rename it with observer. Yeah, and then the second one, we do the same. If you want to see a number, we might want to rename it as observer number so that it makes sense. And then this one, height, we might need to put it lowercase. Everything we put lowercase. Let me change height. I hope you guys are following. Usiniweche hivyo. This I'm doing here intentionally because I want you guys to take note of something. We'll come back to that. So this one we do pressure. And by the way, this data is the way it just as you typed, as you sent it to me. So this it's going to make us learn quite a lot of stuff. Pressure, we name it to pressure, and then we have the next one, timings. Timings, we name it to timings, and then size, we put it lowercase. Size, and then distance also we put it lowercase. Distance, high power, we use an underscore to separate the two. High power, and then points, we do points, and then hit miss. This is our target variable. Hit miss, we could say, we'll give it as target or outcome. Let's give it outcome. as a name. So that is a dictionary we've created. Then to rename, we create, what was the name of our data frame? This one. So to rename, we pick that data frame. So what we are saying is we want to rename, and then we specify the columns we want to rename is as per that dictionary. Yes. And we add another feature, in place equals to true. In place equals to true, it's like you are saving the changes, yeah, so that it's consistent in subsequent cells. So whenever you call this, it means you will always be getting the new column names. Okay. All right. Then if you want to see some of the parameters in any function, you can put shift double tab. When you do shift double tab, it gives you these hints, and all this can be passed. So at your own free time, you might want to find out what are all these other parameters and what do they do. In this case, we're just specifying the columns, and we are also using in place equals to true. Yeah. So we are going to run this. Alt Enter. Oops, we got an error. Let's find out what that error is. Invalid syntax. So let's go through our dictionary. So if we split it this way to make it more readable, observer number, height, pressure, timing, size, distance, power. There you go. So we had a comma at the wrong place. We remove that. Then we have that. So here it's more readable in that format. Then we run it again. There, no errors. So what you do, we've renamed it. We might want to confirm if the renaming has happened. Yeah. Then we do dot head. And let's verify. So one thing, okay, you can see the columns have been replaced. I want to bring to your attention this pressure. This pressure, we had put it to lowercase, but it has not changed. You see, this one. Yeah. The main reason is at times when you're importing, you might find that prefixes are added. If you look at the real name of this thing, of the column, it has some space in between before the word pressure. So what you're going to do is to copy that as it is and use that to rename. Because what would happen if you want to do a presentation or even manipulation using the pressure column, you'll be calling the pressure dot pressure or the column, but you will never get results because that column name does not exist as much as you can see it. But what you don't see is the space before it. So that is the main reason why it's always good to explore your columns and make sure that you rename them to meaningful names, and also check for such occurrences. Yeah. So when we do that and rerun this cell, and then run that again. There you go. So the column has actually changed. Okay. All right. So we want to see the next thing we're going to do is we want to work one by one on the height. Try and figure out how can we make sure that the height is standard, and then do we really need these other columns? And then we move to distance, high power. The objective is to make sure this data ultimately is clean enough to start our visualization and EDA. And then after visualization and EDA, we can then move to, prediction. So prediction next Saturday would definitely be visualization and EDA. And then the Saturday after that would be now the prediction. So those guys who started with the foundation, I think we're on the same page. Those guys who joined today, I would encourage you guys to play the first video and be in sync, because we will move all the way to doing prediction and understanding some of the concepts. All right. Okay, so what we will do is data df.head. Sorry, we want to check the value counts. How many value counts? How many variants do we have? We have height without any postfix. We have height with a postfix of m. We have height with a postfix of feet in terms of 6 feet. And then we have height in terms of f. Yeah. So we have 4 different representations of the height. So we need to start fixing that. And the way to fix that, we are going to first start to, because of we want to manipulate this data and we have a lot of null values, manipulating this data as is would be problematic if you still have null values. So what you're going to do to temporarily replace the null values with the string null. So where it is, we put a string null, and then we will work through to the end, where that string null will be replaced by either the mean or the mode of the value, the mean or the mode of the specific column. Okay. All right. I've been requested to take a pause. Let me take a pause, and then I hear from you guys. I think maybe someone has a question. Josephine?
No, it was not a question, Olukumenia Chanyoma, but Nime catch up. It's okay. I'm
catch
fine.
up, huh?
Yeah.
I'm hoping you're typing.
Yeah, I'm typing. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So I'm hoping everyone else is also following and typing, so that it's going to be exciting to see the output of what we have. We are starting from a very dirty data set, and we want to see a data set that can actually be used for machine learning. Yeah. Okay. So we were at this point where, and if someone has a question, you can either just put it on chat, and also you can also just interrupt me with just speak your mind as we proceed. Okay, so like I was saying, we temporarily fill it with the string null, and to do that, let's create a variable which is this. So we want to replace the null values with the string null. So there is a difference. When it's none, it means it has nothing. But this time around, we are putting that nothing to be the string null for reasons, for temporary reasons. So there is a command, just like the head, there is a command fill NA that you pass to the data frame. And you pass that parameter. And once again, we use in place equals to true to save the changes, to make sure that moving forward, we don't have nulls, but we have string with nulls, okay? And then to run, you just Alt Enter, okay? So the height is a string object, yeah? So if we come back up here, if we come back where we did .info, the height is string, yeah? So we are going to use a string command to try and, we are going to work step by step. The first step is to extract to filter this data frame to only give us F, the values with F at the end. And then we will now move to the second one, the values with the apostrophe. And then we will now move to the last one, the third one, the values with M. And then we identify the rest which do not have a postfix. Once we will probably end up with 4 data frames. And then we'll also learn how to how to concatenate and merge this data frame into one. Then it will eventually give us the full data frame with the correct values without all this postfix. Okay, so the first one is we create a new data frame, data height, and when you're creating a data frame, you need to give it meaningful names because it reminds you what is stored in that data frame. So in this one, I chose to name it, as much as it's long, a data height with postfix f df. So that one we will do data df. Let me just type this. I'm going to explain what I'm doing. The height dot str dot contains f. So what this does is it's looking at checking. This is a filter. What we have inside here is a filter, and what we have. Let me remove this filter first. If we remove that filter, what we have here is the data frame. Yeah. So this data frame, we want to only extract specific values, and the specific values we want to extract is this. Yes. Height. Timothy, I've seen your question. We'll just revert back to that in a few. Let me just finish this, and then we'll get back to you. And then data frame. So this one we are putting a filter, and this filter we are specifying that column height. We just want data that contains an F. Yeah, and then this value we are assigning all those records. We are creating a new data frame, and with that name. So when we do that, Alt Enter, there we go, and then let's see what we have here. We can use .head. There you go. So we only have data with F. So if you remove .head, it will show you all the records, and when you scroll, there is no other record. So we have the first data frame with height specified in feet. So let's pause there. Timothy has asked, he's having an issue with importing the records. Timothy, is this where you're stuck? Timo?
Yes, how did you open this file?
This command from here, you use read CSV.
All right.
Yeah, so this command, we stored it here. It's stored, the data set is stored here. Here it is. So depending on where you store your data, you need to specify, and the file you're working with is this one. So when you come here, data set, that's the CSV. So it import all the records there.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So when you come back to this point where we have our data with postfix, yeah, we would depending on the choice, we would go and filter out the rest. But let's just see the steps all the way with this one until we get a standard value, yeah. And then the same process we will repeat it for M and the rest, yeah. So what we will do now, we have our new data set. We want to pick. We want to manipulate it. Yeah. Come here. Manipulate it. Now the first thing we want to do, we want that height to store. We need new value there. Okay. So there is a function, a property called map, MAP. Let me just do this so that it is visible. Dot map. So in this map, we are going to use something called a Lambda function. This it's a short form of a function. If you were to, it's a short form of a function that you can use within your data frame. If you're to write that function, you have two ways. You can write the complete function in a separate cell and call it, or you can, a Lambda is just a short form of a function you can use within the data frame. So if you want to learn more about Lambda, this is the best notebook. After completing this notebook, go spend time and research on the things that you've seen on this notebook and it does not make sense. That is the best way to learn. Instead of reading books, try and solve something and then use things that you don't understand to get to understand them. That is the approach I'll be using in all the sessions. So let me complete running this and then I'll explain. X dot strip and then dot strip. So because I want this to be F. I want this to be visible to everyone. So what we do, what this is doing is this Lambda function. What it's doing, it is taking each record in that row, and then, for example, if we pick this one, it will pick the first record, this one. Remove any spaces in the front. Left L strip is left strip. R strip is R strip on the right. So R strip, it's removing any record on the left, and then space. Sorry, you can do that for space, or right strip any value F on the right, and then after doing that, it is storing the changes. It's like saving the changes so that moving forward we have it. Yeah. So when you run that, we have invalid syntax. Yes, I expected that. So we need to remove that. Python is very sensitive to the format that we use. So we are assigning that. So there we go. And if we see, these are just warnings. So if we see the new values of this data frame, the F is gone, okay? Yeah. So height, another thing we need to do is we have height in meters, height in feet, like this one was in feet, height others were specified in meters. We don't want to lose that meaning. So we need to find a way of converting that height to a standard, or it could be let's convert everything to inches, or let's convert everything to meters. So I want to change that to feet, yeah. But before we do that, we need to format all the columns in integer or float. Like right now, when you look at the height, if we were to do manipulation, like now we want to convert it into inches, you'll see that height is stored in as a string. Let's just do that right now. .info, we check the format for height. You see it's still a string. So if we were to convert it into inches, and 1 feet is equals to around 12 inches. So I did my homework, yeah. So it is 12 inches. If you were to do that, it's because now you'll have to take this value times 12, and it cannot work if it is in string, yeah. So we need to convert that to, to inches, to integer, to the correct format, and this in this case float, and it's float because it has decimal points, 6.26. You're looking at the same column, yeah, height. 5.02, 5.02, 4 point, so it's float. So we need to change that data type to float. And the way we do it, conversion, we need to create a dictionary as obvious. And in this dictionary, we want to change the data type. That one, we want it to be int. And then we pick the second one, observation number, also int. Observation number, also int. I hope you guys are following. I'm just going to, for the sake of time, the rest. So I want you guys to type that observation number, int, height, we've changed it to float. Height, we've changed it to float. Distance, we've changed it to int. And then, actually, let's keep distance string, because when you look at this, we have some distance that was null. What is null? Let's come back here. Where did we do our, yeah. We have 119 records, only 100 do not have null. So we have some that are null. So we can put that as string. You can save it as a string data type. But it doesn't matter at the stage. If you get errors, you can always, if you get errors, you can always come and change back the data type. Points, int, and then the score. In this case, it's the target outcome. Outcome become the string. The outcome, this is our outcome. It becomes a string. So this now forms your dictionary. You're going to convert them to this type. And then the way to convert them is dot replace. We have seen not dot replace as type. There is a command here that we do. Let me pick this. If I am too fast and you're getting lost, please just let me know. So what you're going to do in that data frame, you're going to change as type, and then we pass the conversion. So for as type, make sure that will work. Yeah. Unexpected, so let's take it back. There you go. So if you want to just confirm that the data types have changed, .info. Yeah. So you see int, we have height as float. Now we can proceed and do manipulation. Points are int, and then outcome is object, which is string. Okay. So it's good to have that checks. Yeah. Now we need to convert it now to inches. Now we are ready to do the multiplication. So when you do the multiplication, what happens is you take this height, then you can use a short form. Yeah. So basically, whatever value is in this height, you're multiplying it by 12 as an integer. So it has a float, the outcome is going to be a float. So that is the command that you run. And then we want to check the outcome. So checking the outcome, let's say dot sample. example, just look at 2 records. There. So you see, basically it means 6 point, okay, let's see the head. 60.24, the first record, 60.24, that is the 6.24 inches. So if you come here, it means this one, 5.02, is the same as 60.24 inches. So we finally have our record as in inches, yeah. So this one is much better, but you know it's just a subset of the entire data set. We have the one that had postfix of M and apostrophe. We need to repeat the same thing so that we all have all those records with inches. And to do this, I'll just paste it. Let me pause there. Are we together? Is everyone typing or following? Question? Mary, Robin?
On my end, I am following.
You're following, huh?
Yes. At least I understand the concepts and the reasons as to why you are doing whatever you're doing.
Okay.
Yes.
Unajua Zoom ukisikia watu wamenyamaza, unaweza kuwa unaongea tu peke yako, like a one person. I have to make sure that we are together. Okay. So what I'll do, Josephine, you're typing, yes?
Yes, I'm typing.
Okay. Am I too fast? For those guys who are typing.
Yeah, at some point you're too fast, but I'm screenshotting, so parts zenye umeniacha, I'll just catch up sahi.
Okay, we are going to take another break. So for those guys who are not who are typing and got a bit lost, I could just be scrolling down during the break so that we catch up. After the break, we move together. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
All right. So let me do this. Okay. All right. So when we repeat the same for the ones that have apostrophe, and this is where you put it as an apostrophe, and we run it. Yeah. So we've run it. Just mute someone. Let's mute. Okay. All right. Okay. So we've run that one. So the next thing we're going to do is when we check the ones for apostrophe, we just want to validate that this is it can be seen. So there we go. This is the data. We are creating the second data frame for the ones with apostrophe. So this process is normally very, very boring. And you might find yourself, if you're not typing, you might find yourself either dozing off or something. So keep typing. Don't be discouraged. It's a process and it's an inevitable process. Okay, data height with postfix and apostrophe. We've confirmed that all the data that we want to work with right now it has apostrophe. So what you're going to do next is remove the apostrophe. Yeah. Remove that apostrophe and do the calculation. Maths, the maths. So this df height equals to that same df. Let me just, for easy visibility, height dot map. Then you do lambda X for X strip. We have space. Let me check this to the next line. Then dot add strip. Then we put the apostrophe 1. And then we display the one with apostrophe. So because we don't want errors, let's just make sure that the same thing is visible. There we go. So the apostrophes are gone. The apostrophes are gone. Now what is left is we need to multiply this by 12. Excuse me. Before we do that, the conversion, since we've created a new data frame, we'll have to repeat the other one. Remember, this data frame was created from the main one. Yeah, we created from the main one, and the main one still has columns that have different data types. So you might want to standardize the data types first before you continue, or this is still the same. Yeah, depending on the approach that you pick. So when you come there, we need to first convert this. We need to create a conversion dictionary. What I'll do, I'll copy the conversion dictionary. Let's convert that. Let's copy this, and then we'll just change the field. Conversion, we copy that. And then we change a few things. The first one, we need to make sure that we are converting it to the apostrophe. So let's rename this to 02. So int, height, floats, distance, string, points, int outcome. Yeah, we need to change this. And we need to change this. So if we are to make this visible, we need to change this to 02. And then run it. Yeah. So we've copied and we are running it. Now we need to confirm .info what we have. Observer int float, perfect. So everything has been changed. So what we are going to do is to copy the multiplication. So you see, we've reached a point where we're just copy pasting. Yeah, because we've already known what is happening. So for this one, we copy paste and make sure we change the data frame. Data frame height that. Okay. So no errors. So we just need to confirm. There we go. We have the height now in inches. Yeah. There. So we have two data frames. We've replaced the apostrophe and the F to change back to inches. Now we have M, which is in meters. We need to change that to inches as well. Yeah. And it's more or less the same thing. We first need to come here. All right, let's see. We create a new data frame with the postfix equals to M. And then we are creating it from the main data frame. And this is the filter. And we are looking at only having details for M. So when you do this and echo that, you see, this is our next data frame. Only values with M. So it has M, yeah. So Alt Enter to create a new cell, yeah. So we need to check that the same thing. We are going to remove the characters. Fortunately enough, we have that code already. So the code is right here. We first need to remove the characters. think it's this one. Yes, it's this one. So if we copy this, and paste it, there you go. Okay, sorry for that. We need to apply that. Because that is what you're working with, height. For that, lambda and strip, and this one we need to put it to be m. Okay. There you go. So we are going to, it's important to just make sure that it has replaced, like you see here, it has replaced already. Now the next thing is to multiply. Yeah, to multiply. Once we multiply, we'll have all now 3 data sets. We'll have all the 3 data sets with having in inches. We have all the 3 data sets with inches. But before we multiply, again, since this data was imported from the raw data set itself, then it was we have to filter. We have to confirm. Let me look for the code that copies this. Yeah, we have to change the data type. So when you're changing the data type, let me copy this. I think let's take a break. Let's take a break. I resume. I need to address something quickly. Let's take a break. We resume after 10 minutes. Thank you, guys. I'll just pause. Resume after 10 minutes. Hi, guys. So I think we can continue. Where were we? We have we had checked for m. We have m. What is left is to multiply. I think we have it as a column. No, we have the data type as string. I think we may just want to confirm that. .info. Let's confirm that data type for height, yes, it's string. So the first thing we need to do is to convert it to float, and we have that source code. Let's just scroll up. Go get that source code. There we go. So we format everything as the correctly. Let's go to the end. Three. So we have observer number, height, float, distance. And then we change that to 3. And then we need to change also the data frame that we're working with. Don't forget that, because if you mix data frames, you'll find very weird results at the end of it. So that's it. No errors, so we might want to check and confirm that it has actually been changed to float. Yes, it has. So our manipulation, what you're going to do is
Ayub, we can't see you. We can't see what you're doing.
Oops. Oh, okay. I didn't share the screen. Okay, sorry. Gosh, ni venye nimetoka break nimekuja kureset. Let me share my screen. It means you're alert. Good stuff. How about now? Can you see?
Yes, now we can see. Maybe now you can go back and start afresh.
Okay,
Where
let me
we
just
paused.
come here. I think we paused at this point where we had this data frame. Yeah, we are looking for data frame that has M characters at the end, and we remove them using this cell 39, and this is we removed it, and now we have height without M. But now, since we stored this, the data type was string. As you can see, the data type is string. Because you want to multiply it and convert it to inches, we need to have it converted back to float. Because height in that field is stored as float. There are guys who had recorded decimal points, so it's good to store it as float so that we retain the same. So the converting it, we create this dictionary. We create this dictionary, and this dictionary has the normal conversion parameters. We are converting observer to int, observer number to int, height to float. And then we select our data frame. The data frame that we have picked is this one. So we are applying that dictionary and converting the data type to, we are converting the data type to as per this conversion dictionary. Yeah. This conversion dictionary can have several columns depending on what you want to convert. Now, after that, we need to confirm now that it has been changed. Our target is this one. Yes, it has been changed. Now, the next thing is to do the multiplication because now it is in float. And the way to do the multiplication, you're doing the multiplication. That is a command for doing the multiplication. I think that has been a bit fast. Since I had not shared my screen, does anyone feel like I need to give them a chance to continue typing, or I should just proceed? For those guys who are typing.
If you don't mind, could you go back to the containers where you converted the floats?
Yeah.
To...
You mean this
Yes.
one? Okay. Okay. Just type, and then once you're done, let me know, and then I can proceed. In the meantime, for those guys who are following through, what we are doing is we are trying to clean up the data frame that we created as an outcome of our previous class, where we generated a data set, and we are trying to clean it up. So the objective is to be able to, at the end of this exercise, are we going to be able to predict, given a certain set of features, are we going to be able to predict whether someone is good in playing that? What is the probability of them getting a miss or a hit? So we collected the data, now we are cleaning it. The next class would be to visualize that data and then do some exploratory data analysis, and then eventually have a model. And out of this, we had a discussion last weekend where we learned about the different types of machine learning. At the end of this class, I would want you guys to tell me what kind of which type of machine learning problem are we going to solve, considering it's a hit or miss. We went through regression, classification, and reinforcement learning. So out of what do you guys think the problem you're going to be solving? That answer I would want to hear at the end of this class. So keep that in mind. Everyone will give me an answer and the probable reasons. Kama utaki kujibu, then unaweza hepa. During that time, sign out haraka. But it will be to your loss because you won't learn. So just stay around until the end of the class. Give your answer. If you get it right, it means you're on the right path. If you get it wrong, it also means you're on the right path because you'll now get an answer. And when you get an answer, you'll never forget. So it's good to stick around to the end of the class. All right. Josephine, should I scroll?
Yes, you can scroll. It's okay. Thank you.
Okay. So here is where we want to now multiply with for every outcome we multiply by 12 to convert it to inches. So when you do that, no error. And then we want to see. There we go. Yeah. So 36 inches. So it's going to be very, very interesting when we are doing EDA, because some of these things we'll ask ourselves, do we have any outliers? Can someone be 0 meters? Can someone be 36 inches? What kind of person? And these 36 inches, can they play games? What would be the impact of that? You see, because this one was raw, we've not imported it from anywhere else. We created it. And it's interesting on how the outcome. Anyone interested in this would want to see the kind of model that we would come up with. The reason why you should stick around. All right. So the next thing is we want to go now to. We've done M, we've done F, we've done apostrophe. Now we need to generate one that is neither of those three. Yeah, it's not M, it doesn't have M, it doesn't have F, and it doesn't have apostrophe. How are you going to do that? Since are we going to strip it? Yeah. So the first thing is we need to create one that has both. Yeah, like has everything. We need to create one that has we need to create one, we need to filter one that doesn't have F, and then we filter one that doesn't have height, and then from that we get the results. So I'll just walk you through this. So it's a bit lengthy. The first one is from the data df, we need to do a filter. Yeah. So in this filter, we are looking for one that is not. Yeah. So we are like negating. So we are looking at one that is not. So to negate, you use a symbol called tilde. That is a tilde. So you do data df. So in the previous query, we had data df filter this. Let me just move it to the next cell. This one dot str dot contains f. So this filter here, as we have learned previously, it will only filter records that contains f. But this time around, you're telling it we want those that do not contain f. So those that do not contain f, they have apostrophe, m, and a normal. Yeah. So we have our first data set. Now the second data set, we'll need to remove the one that have m, for instance. Yeah. So this one will be positive m and normal. We are removing apostrophe. Yeah. So this one has apostrophe, m, and normal. We've only removed f. So we want to filter itakuwa. We use this one, the same data frame. Yeah, the same data frame, you're using it here. But now, we don't want a specific set. Let me bring it down here. We don't want a specific set. So obviously, we are going to negate that and then make reference to the same. Yeah, we don't want one that's we don't want one that is this. Sorry, this. Oops. Okay, let me see. Data. Height. str dot contains m. So is it m or apostrophe? We removed apostrophe. We remove the apostrophe here. So the data set that you're going to have will not have f, neither will it have apostrophe. Yeah. And then we, for the sake of typing, let's move that up. We can confirm that before we proceed. Let's run that. Let's see. Oops. Because data is not defined. Data height with postfix m and normal. Data height with postfix m and normal. Oh yeah, this one. We will use this one. This is our new data set. This one, and it's the same one that we use here. Yeah, to negate it. So when you negate it, we have 1 and normal. There we go. So we have m and normal. So we have a data set with m and normal. So we have one more work to do. We need to have only normal. The one that has no postfix. So if we want to do one that does not have any postfix, we create another data frame. And then we pick this. That is our data frame. And we negate. We don't want this height dot str dot contains m. We don't want one that contains m because we can see it here. So we can test this. We see that are we going to eventually have one that is normal? Yep. So the others have been removed. We only have this. So the assumption is any that was not m, it was not specified as m or f or apostrophe, we will assume that it was meters. So we just do the same conversion. We assume that it was feet. We do the same conversion in terms of converting it to what is it called? Converting it to inches. Yeah. So we might want to confirm the data type. Confirm the data types because there is a null here. There is a null. How do we handle this null? So this is a null string, not a null value. So because we replaced everything for the sake of calculation. So let's do .info. .info. The null. So we have the null string. We need this, and it is objects. It is object. We need to convert it to. We need to convert it to a string. Yeah. And then to convert this to a string, we need to replace, since it's a null, we first need to convert it to, replace the null with the value 0. And then after converting it, after replacing it, we convert now the entire column to float. Yeah. The main reason we cannot convert to float is because we have a string here and the data type is, they have a string, and when you do as type to float, it will throw an error because of this record, index 76. So the first step is to run this and make sure that our data frame will replace this with 0. And then we will, replace it with 0. Then we can confirm. Let me just run this cell. And then we confirm. Then we confirm that. There we go. Let's look for that value. It has changed to 0. Yeah, it is. Record 76. change to record 76, it's 0. So after confirming that now, yes? Someone said something? Okay. All right, after confirming it's 0, the next thing we need to do is, as usual, we will have to convert the data types to string, and we have a conversion code already. The conversion code is here. Let's see, right there, here. So instead of typing it again, we can always just copy this code that we've done. Let's remove this. This code that we've done, let's name it to 4. Make this 4, and then we make sure that the data frame being converted is correct. This one. Yes, someone said something. Then we do that. Let me pause there. Looks like someone is trying to say something. Did someone say something? Or I could just proceed.
Sorry, I didn't say anything. Just go ahead.
All right. Okay, so we've confirmed that no postfix. We want to convert it to float. Height here is in float. So as type, we are on 4. So when we do this, no errors. .info. Height, we have it as float. Perfect. So we have it as float. So the next thing we're going to do is, as usual, we're now ready to multiply and convert it to inches. So we are multiplying to 12, and we'll get the height of this individual in inches. And then we can also confirm the values. So you see we have 48. So we have, ultimately we have all the 4 data sets with the values, and all the values are in inches. So you see that we have here a 0. Is it possible to have a zero height person playing that? And the answer is no. So probably that was a null value, and we might need to replace. But before we replace that, I think we confirm we merge all the data sets. So we have all the data frames. We have 4 data frames that we have created because of the different ways in which people recorded the height of an individual. So data frame, we have data frame 1 is the same as the first one. The first one was for postfix. F, data frame 2, it was for apostrophe. Don't mind the spelling, I don't know the spelling. If I get it right, I think it's sheer luck. But if I get it wrong, then just take it as a variable and move on. So data frame 03, the third one we removed was M, yeah. And then the final one, data frame 04, it is no prefix, no postfix, sorry, not prefix, with no postfix. I hope that is the name of the variable we use, because if it's not, then we'll have problems. So frames equals, we put them in a list, yeah? So we will put all these frames in a list because we want to concatenate them. So this one is data frame 1, 2, 3, and 4. So finally, our working data frame equals to, there is, in Pandas, we have a formula called PD concat, and we put now the frames. So what this does is it combines all those data frames and creates a single one. So when you run that, no errors, good stuff. So we could now just visualize what you can see. So if we scroll down, we have quite a number of records. Yeah, it means we have records there. And there's a video clip that I shared, I think on Tuesday, on how some of the tricks that Pandas gives you to visualize your data using Pandas. So how to extend this? It's possible to see all the records. Yeah, and I could just revisit that. If you want some more tips, I ask you to play that video recording, and there are quite a number of tips there, including changing color depending on the kind of emphasis that you want. But for today, we want to do display the maximum rows so that we don't see this these dots. So there is a function there, so set options with maximum display.maximum rows. We pick 500. So when you do that, and then you display this again. You display this again. You see, you will be able now, it puts on a scrollable frame that you can actually see all the records. So you'll be able to see all the records, yeah? And we've been working on height. So you'll agree with me that now this height is standard. It's standard and can be pushed to machine learning without losing the meaning. Someone who presented height in meters, in feet, in feet, in inches, and someone who did not specify, we've assumed what they said, and we have now data, yeah? So that is the first step. Quite a lot of work with regards to the height of an individual. But there are quite a lot of things that we've observed. If you look at certain columns, like now this column, we now want to work on the nulls. If you look at this column, pressure, timings, and size, majority of these columns are null. And for you to do that, to see the percentage of records that are null for a specific column, you can quickly run let's pick the data frame, scroll down, and then specify the column. So the column could be pressure, then the formula value counts. When you do this, it's telling you you have 100 records that are null, and these 100 records that are null, if we sum up this is 3 plus 3, 6, plus 2, 8, plus 2, 10, 12, 14, 16, 17, 18, 19. So 119 records, and which 100 are all null. So basically, this column, what it's telling you is we don't have enough information. So it will be inconsequential if you drop this column, because you don't have enough information to utilize it. Majority of this column is null. So, and the same thing applies to timings and size. So what you're going to do is we're going to drop these columns. So you can do the value counts for each one of them. You'll realize that each one of them have 100 nulls out of 119. So to drop that, this is a formula, or rather the way to drop. You specify the list of columns that you want to drop, and the axis you specify is 1. When it's 1, it means it's a column. When it's 0, it means it's a row. And because you want to commit the changes, you add in place equals to true. so that moving forward, you want this data frame not to have these columns. So when you run this Alt Enter, oops, and we have an error. Let's find out where the error is. Copy. Trust not found. Oh, sorry. I had pasted this. So this one is pressure. So pressure, timings, and size. Let's just confirm. Pressure, timings, and size. So there. So let's run it again, and no error. So if we want to see, now we have our data set, and you see it's getting cleaner and cleaner. So this is a bit better. Now we have a few more things to do. Look at the distance and the I power. The distance have null, I power also has null, yeah? But the value counts for null is not as many, so we cannot drop these ones. We cannot even drop the columns. We cannot drop the columns, and we can also not drop the rows. Because if we drop the rows, we will lose this information that is being given by other records, like now the height. And you look at the height, when you drop the rows, you're going to lose this information. So we cannot drop the rows. So we only have an option of determining whether, how are you going to replace it? Then there are ways of replacing it. Now, thinking of, now replacing it is driven by you as a domain expertise. So as guys, you know how to play that, I'm assuming. So we know that distance is very, very important. And there's normally a standard distance. Yeah. So if at all the distance was not there, I think it would be appropriate for us guys to assume the standard distance is used. And the standard distance could be maybe the mode, the one that is used by most people. And then we can decide, okay, instead of replacing it with a specific value, why don't we replace it with one that appears, one that is used more often, yeah? So in that case, we can do replacing that distance value with, just a minute, here, the first thing we need to do is distance. We have a null value somewhere, distance. Null 5m. So we have m's. That is the second thing. So before we work on the null values, we need to replace the m so that we have a figure. And then we go to the null values. So if you can see this, and that is the code that I've just pasted here. So that is what it does. It's replacing m in the distance field. So if we run this, that m will have disappeared. We have null. So the next thing we need to factor in is the null values. So the null values, like I was explaining earlier, we can either replace them with a standard number if we know that the standard distance for playing darts is a few meters. We specify that number if we know. If we don't know, we just pick what is the mode of what number appears most. Yeah, we could use the mode, but before we can even use the mode, we realize that this column is stored as string. Yeah, this column is stored as string, and we have some null strings. Like now, these ones, all these are null strings. Yeah, so the first thing is we need to convert this null string and replace it with 0. Yeah, and then after replacing this null string with 0, we convert the entire column to be of type integer or float. Now to convert that, to replace that string with 0, this code we've seen it before. This is how you do it with 0, and then you run You run it, no error. Let's see if we have the 0. Okay, there we go. We have zeros. Okay, so right now we see, okay, let's find out what is the mode of this column. The mode is now in I think previously in our previous class, we looked at measures of central tendencies. If we didn't, then it's coming. It's a session where we'll be looking at statistics and how it's used in machine learning. So there is something called mode. It's just another measure like mean and variance. So in this case, you want to check what is a mode, and the mode by definition is a number that appears many times within a certain range. Yeah. So when you get the mode, the distance, we need to find out what mode is for that distance. So to find out the mode, we paste the data frame and then we specify the column within which we want to do the mode, and then we say mode. Oops, the mode is 0. So mode might not work because we've done mode. We've replaced all the null values with mode, and it appears so many times. I think it appears 20 times. Yeah. And to confirm how many times it appears, we could do this dot value counts. Yeah, it appears 19 times. So it's the highest. The next one is 3. Yeah. Guys, give me a minute. I pick a phone call just now. Okay, sorry guys, I had to pick a phone call. So we continue. You can see 0 is appearing 19 times. Okay. Sorry for that. Had a delivery to pick. Was just confirming that. All right. So it's appearing 19 times. So we need to pick a different value, and in this case, we can choose the mean of all those records. But before we do the mean, we might need to convert that to integer. Yeah, because they are in string. The records are all in characters. We convert it to integer. And once converting to integer, we can now derive the mean and replace the mean with the zero values. We cannot use 0 because we know the distance 0. It's like you're right at the board. Yeah. So that distance, it's now integer. We can now multiply it with, we can now derive the mean and use that mean to replace the 0. So if we work with the mean, that's the distance mean, 3.78, so it will be 3.79 when it's rounded to 2 decimal places. Working distance, replace 0 with the distance mean. That is the formula. So you're looking at this data frame. The field is distance, and then you replace. To replace, you're looking at the value for 0, and you're replacing it with the distance mean. And the distance mean is this value here. You've already picked it. It's this value here. Yeah. Okay. So when you do that, you check the value, and then let's see if we have 0. If you have 0, 3.78. So all the zeros have been replaced. Okay. All right. So the next thing we're going to do is we need to round it off at least to standard, to 2 decimal places, because we might want to. It's not visually appealing. It is so crowded, that column. It is only good when that column represents either some money or something. So we round it off. This is how to round off a specific column, the data frame. This is the field, and then you use the method round, and then do 2 decimal places. So if you display this again, you now see the distance. It's getting smarter and it's nearer and cleaner. I mean cleaner, 3.79, right? So we are almost done. We are left with I count, sorry, I power. So with regards to I power, we want to see which one appears most. So we'll assume that most people have good eyesight. Only special cases like my case, ile tunapambana na hali yetu. So we want to see out of this data, how do we check which one appears most of the time? So when you do value counts, we have null values 39. So these null values, we need to replace them because eyesight is an important independent variable to our prediction problem. So we cannot assume. So we need to replace this. And as we had said, B is blurred eyesight, G is good eyesight, P is poor eyesight, S is normal out, standard, like now normal. So we pick to choose S to replace with the null string. So when you want to replace, all we do is the code is available. We've already done it before. So we just replace null with the value S so that we have our data set. So after replacing that, let me run that, and then view our data frame. So when you look at our data frame, we have the height in standard the way we wanted it. We have the distance. We have now I power. I power, everything has been replaced. Now we don't have any null. So if you can repeat the value counts, you'll see that you don't have any null string. Yeah, and this is character. Okay, and then we also have the points. We have the points, and we have the outcome. We have the outcome. And this one looks like a data frame that can now be used in machine learning. Yeah. So moving forward in the next session, I think we are almost at the end of the period. We are left with 10 minutes. The next phase would be very, very interesting. How do we visualize this? What information or understanding can we derive out of this? And how do we handle, like now, before we do, it's basically going to be a lot of visualization and exploring and deriving a lot of meaning out of it. And since this phase is normally a phase of insights, it's not going to be coming from me as it has today. It's going to be a conversation that we are going to have, all of us. So I'm going to share all this with you guys, the recording as well as the Jupyter notebook, for you guys to think through what would you want to visualize. Poor guys with poor eyesight, what proportion of guys with poor eyesight actually get a miss? How do you represent that visually? Guys with good eyesight, what proportion? And guys who are short, height, the distance, so those kind of things. So we just play around with visuals. You can come up with your own visuals. I can come up with my own visuals, not just drawing them, but statement. So this is going to be the work, just like the previous class where I gave you guys work to fill in Excel sheet. This week's work is I'll request for you guys to think through what kind of visuals do you want to see, and then you write those. If you guys could do like around 5 each. I know most of them would be duplication, but look through the data and then come up with at least 5 visuals that you'd want to see. And then during the next class, we will see how to visualize them and what would be the meaning of those visuals. So it will be very, very interesting. After that, then we do what machine learning engineers love very much, playing with algorithms and doing predictions. Okay. All right. Speaking about predictions, I want to open this floor, to open it to you guys now. Give feedback. What you think of the session? I'll just go one by one. What you think of the session, and you'll start by what you think which type of machine learning problem we are solving. So you tell us which type, your reasons, and your feedback on today's session. Let me check who is there. Okay, we have Daisy. Daisy, do you want me to start with you or I start from the bottom? What would Penda kuhelp?
Anza kwingine.
Sasa bado tutafika tu kwako. So unfortunately, Timo tunaanza na wewe. Let me start from the bottom. Timo, fungua roho.
Oh, sasa. So this is a supervised machine learning. Because we know the target outcome, it's either a hit or miss.
Yes, yes.
Then, and supervised, it's also part of regression, because we are trying to do a prediction whether it's going to hit or miss. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Your feedback on the class?
It has been nice. I followed through.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
So if you have a different opinion from what you were saying, fungua roho and you say your explanation. Thanks, Timo. Your explanation has been well received. I'll give my final answer when everyone says. So I'll just copy what you guys say. Twende kwa Silas. Silas, fungua roho. I know you joined late, a bit late. Silas, are we together? Okay. I don't know, maybe he joined and he's doing something else. Robin, fungua roho.
I'd also tend to agree with Timo because already we have an idea of what is expected, whether it's a hit or a miss. So we go with our regression algorithms.
Supervised.
Then, yes, supervised, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
As far as today's session is concerned, I think this has been one of the best classes I've ever attended.
Okay.
It's clearly shown how you are able to clean data, because I think most of the times when we get this the data, it's already clean. So we don't go through this process of cleaning the data, which I think I've just seen is not an easy task. You need to be very, very careful as what you're doing. Then just one ask from you.
Okay.
You just when you share with us the notebook,
Okay.
kindly of the steps you're taking, just have an explanation of what you're doing at every step.
All right. All right.
If that can be possible, so that at least even when we are going through the notebook,
Yeah.
we're also knowing what exactly is happening at each step. That
Okay.
would be my ask.
Okay, I'll do that.
Yes,
No problem.
but it's been a fantastic class.
Okay. Awesome.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you. We'll go to Millicent Fungwaro.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Millicent.
Yeah, the session has been cool. So I've been late for the second one. Hata sijui nilikuwa nimeenda wapi. Nimechelewa kidogo, but it has been really great. I've learned so much. So, but then I really wonder why my data is still not loading. So I want to ask you, maybe, do you have to use this copied desktop thing or wherever you have saved the data, or you can simply, maybe if you can run your notebook uko juu.
I think with loading, if there was anyone who got stuck with loading, the possibility would be where you store your file is different from where you're fetching it. So what I would recommend is if we could plan for a session where I could either, you could either share your screen, or maybe after this class, anyone who wants to see how we do it, I could give you control so that you share your screen, and then I help you on how to make sure that you load the data. I think maybe that's where most of you guys may have gotten stuck, and that one I think when I simulated with one of you, maybe yourself, then everyone would understand.
Okay.
So do you feel like after this session, anyone who's struggling with that can you could show us your screen, and then I show you guys what to do. Is that okay?
I share. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Then we can do that. So anyone who's struggling with how to import the data, you stay behind. Millicent will share her screen. I'll show you how to share your screen, and then I will guide you on what you need to do.
Okay.
All right.
So far so good. Thank you.
All right. Karibu sana, Millicent. So we go to Mary.
The class has been great. I think I skipped something last session, so I was not able to follow on my machine. But I'll be able to follow during the week.
Okay, no problem. During the week, if you have any questions, you can always reach out to me. I'm always so engaged during the day, but I always try and create time to respond to the questions I get. So feel free and ask me any questions that you may have. We go to, okay. Thanks, Mary. We go to Josephine. Josephine Fungwaro. Ama ulikuwa ushafungua roho?
Hapana, sikuwa nimefungua roho.
Aya,
Okay. Hi guys. So I'd say the problem is a classification problem. Okay, so hakuna explanation. Good. So the class was amazing because we were able to learn. Like I learned a lot. I'm glad we had this session because most of the data sets we work with zinakwanga, clean. And although uliniacha nikitoa postfix ya kwanza, nilikuwa tu zile za break.
Yes.
Okay, but it's fine. I'll catch up. I've seen it's basically repeating and concatenating. So I'll just practice and yeah, thank you for the session.
Karibu sana, Josephine.
Yes.
We go to Henry. Henry Fungwaro.
Hi guys.
Hi Henry.
Unanisikia?
Kabisa.
Hi everyone. It's my first time and I learned quite a lot. And I look forward to be part of this journey. On the machine learning problem, I'd say we are sort of doing regression because I could say we have covariates and we have a predictive outcome variable. So that would be what maybe we are looking at. And on cleaning, it actually makes most of us appreciate what maybe those who clean data or those who work with that data do. Because maybe most of us get clean data, kazi tu ni kuendelea nayo. But at least we get to understand the work that goes behind cleaning data. So yeah, it's been a good session and I look forward to be part of this journey.
Karibu sana, Henry. Okay. Okay. We go to Haron. Haron Fungwaro.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Fantastic class. It was my first time here in this channel. And what I will say is that it was easy to follow. It was well explained. Now, the only thing I'll request maybe, as the other guy had said, you add the comment section so that when one is going through it, it's easy to follow.
Okay.
Yeah. That's all I would say. But I'll be part of this journey. It's great.
Okay, thank you, Aaron. I'll definitely do that. And the uploaded notebook will have those comments, and I'll also add some links for you guys to do more research at your free time.
Even the previous classes we talked about.
Okay.
The one that we missed out on. Yeah.
Okay, I will. All right, perfect, Aaron. Thank you very much. We go to Eve Fungwaro.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Yes.
Oh, okay. The class has been amazing today. I've been following through, although I got stuck back there at exporting the data. Hopefully I'll catch up.
Okay, awesome.
For the machine learning technique that you've used, I'm not so sure, but let me see. Yeah.
Okay, no worries. I know there are some people who've come today, they might not have an idea. I really recommend you go through the first video. And the first video, I'll share the details as has been proposed by Haron. I'll share the details to the link. Get some time and go through it, because I started from scratch. So I'll really try and make these concepts understood and very, very clear. And don't worry if you can still not tell the difference between classification and regression, or even supervised and unsupervised. This concept will come clearer as you move forward. Okay? Karibu sana, Eve. All right, finally, Daisy. You can run, but you can't hide. Tuko kwako. Ama Daisy ameenda vamuzi.
Hapana, niko hapa.
Sawa, fungua roho.
So naweza sema nitakubaliana tu na wengine, we are doing supervised learning since we have our target, the dependent variable, it's either a hit or a miss, alafu tuko na predictors zetu. Yeah, so and then on the class mimi nilifika na nyinyi ku-export the file, nika-export and then power ikaenda. So all along I've been using my phone. Okay. So I would request kwako kwa notebook in every step tupatie, those two notes you write there, like what you are doing, so that during the week we can be able to kufuata from the word go in your notebook to tuandike, we do the same thing, then we clean our data.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll do that. And I'll once I upload. Karibu sana, Daisy. Okay, is there anyone who has not spoken? Anyone hajafungua roho? I'll give some guide on the answers. Okay, I'll assume that we've all had a chance just to talk. I appreciate your feedback, and I've taken them positively. If I start with the question I had asked, you guys are correct. It is supervised learning because we know we can actually know the anticipated outcome, and we have a target variable, which is either a miss or a hit. And the difference between supervised and unsupervised is, for supervised, like I've said, it is, you know, the anticipated outcome. Unsupervised, you have no idea. And there are specific algorithms that are good for each. Now, within supervised, we have different categories. And one of the categories is regression, and another one is classification. So regression, the difference between these two is regression has a discrete outcome. It has to be a value. And for classification, it is a categorical outcome. So categorical outcome means it is either, it is a category. It can be one of two or one of many. So in this case, we are talking about the outcome is one of two. It's either a miss or a hit. And for a regression, it is discrete. Discrete is like a number. So it could be, we are predicting a specific value. So predicting a specific value would be, if you are looking at, say, the stock of a certain company by a certain date. So the output there is a discrete number, the stock value. Is it 32 shillings? Is it 50 shillings? So that is a regression problem. So you guys are right. This is a classification problem, and it is a supervised learning machine learning problem. Okay. So as usual, I'll share the notebooks. What I'll do before sharing the notebooks, I'll add all the comments. I'll share the links that you guys have, and you guys have a busy week ahead. That's what I prepared for you guys today. Next weekend, we will do a lot of visualization. And please, please, please get some time. Don't forget on sending the kind of visualization you want to see. Just look at the data and think of, can I see which distance has the highest miss, or what kind of people get misses? What is the proportion of miss versus hits? Which observer has the most misses, or which observer records the most hits? So those kind of questions, just put it in graph, in sentence, and send that through to me. I will select a few, and those would be the basis of our visualization class tomorrow, this coming Saturday. All right. Until then, let's keep talking on the WhatsApp group. You have any problem or question, ask in the WhatsApp group. Anyone who's willing to answer is able to answer you, not necessarily myself, but we have so many other people in the group who can answer your question. Just feel free, express your question in the group, and you'll get answers. See you guys, and have a lovely weekend.
Thank you.
Goodbye, guys.
You too. Thank you. Thank you.